Hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us on this December day. We've got our TBC Power Hour today. We're doing something a little bit different. As you can see, you get to see a nice panel of us here joining you from Westminster, Colorado. We've got two remote participants as well. Riley Smith, who many of you have known from previous Power Hours and TBC materials, is joining us from Canada. And then our Marcom guru, Michael Dix, is joining us from Florida. So thank you for joining. And we've got an exciting hour here. We ran, I'll say, more than a little long this morning, but good stuff, lots of good questions coming in, and we'll get going right now. So here's who we've got with you. Starting on the outside here, William with a last-minute ad. William, do you want to introduce yourself?
I work with the regional development team, and I'm responsible for Africa.
Yeah, and he popped in. He's working with Boris and I to get TBC into the Africa continent. So thank you, William. Thanks for joining us. We've got Terry Clock next to William, who's part of the Americas support team, and
currently in Russia.
Yeah, they're approximate locations. I did put Riley way up north, so he's not that far north, but he's. Terry is our resident GNSS and baseline processor expert and survey adjustment expert. He's been a part of this team for a long time and does great presentations, dimensions, and power hours. Everybody's learned a lot from Terry, so thank you for joining. And Terry's got some questions this afternoon as well. To my right is Devin Martinez. He is the titles. These intern titles don't do these guys any justice with how valuable they are to the team. Devin has been working with Boris and myself on product management with RealWorks and TBC development, handling some new stories and development for our next release of TBC as well. I am Joe Black. I'm the product manager for TBC. I'm going to try to reduce how much I get to talk today because I don't like listening to myself, and I don't think anybody else does either. To the left of me is Mr. Boris Skopeljack, who is the market manager for our office software portfolio. Boris was the TBC product manager before me for 3.5 years, you said? Mm-hmm. And then next to Boris is Adam Tigris, who is our QA/QC intern on the TBC team. Again, intern does not do Adam justice. Same thing with Riley, who you'll hear from, and Michael as well. Great team. This slide here has the background of the world, if that looks hopefully familiar to you. We've got some plus signs on there, and that represents the extent of our team, our TBC team. And I wanted to show this to show you the global reach and the abilities that we have to become not just a global platform, but also a regional platform. We've got capabilities and teams, and we're growing aggressively to try to meet individual region requirements and locations. So big part of the team is here based in Westminster, Colorado. We've got several teams in Europe, Nantes and Paris, France, Stuttgart and Munich, Germany, and then Vilnius, Lithuania as well. That makes up those 5 in Europe. We've got a outstanding relationship and agreement with the Nikon Trimble joint venture in Japan. And then we've also got resources in New Zealand and Australia as well. So we're going to do something a little bit different, like I said, and hopefully we marketed this a little bit to you. We want this session to be really interactive, and we've got a lot of giveaways here. We're going to be giving away some of these fine TBC from Field to Finish with Confidence t-shirts. We want to we're going to throw some polls at you to get your opinion, help us know how we're doing and where it kind of shaped the direction that TBC is going. and we will be these guys here will be answering some of your user submitted questions. A note on that, thank you for everybody who has submitted a question. We unfortunately won't be able to get to all of them. If you do see your question up here on the board, then you will be getting a TBC t-shirt as well. And then I do have all the lists of questions. Some people will also be getting TBC t-shirts as well for submitting questions, even if we don't answer. So we'll be reaching out to you here over the next couple of days, answering those questions. So thank you. The response, especially here this week, has been great and a lot more than I was expecting. So thank you very much for that. Part of the t-shirt giveaway, we're going to be running a couple of little stories past you, 2 truths and a lie. And the first person that can identify the lie about TBC will get the t-shirt. Boris will be taking us through a what's next and kind of where we've gone, where we've been for TBC. That's I thought was really informative this morning. And then I'll go through probably really quickly the learning and educational resources for what I do and what a lot of these guys do to teach you about TBC, to educate you, to show you the workflows and then the vast majority of functions and commands that TBC supports.
Joe, are you going to sign the t-shirt?
I would devalue the t-shirt.
Oh, maybe Boris can.
Yeah. And then just a quick next step, if you're new to TBC, if you want to know more, we'll go over that, and then I will tease the January Power Hour topic as well. So without further ado, I think we're ready for our first question, and we're going to hand this over to Riley. And there's Riley, and you can give yourself, sorry Riley, I didn't give you much of an introduction.
That's all right.
If you'd like to wow our audience with your plethora of knowledge and experience like you usually do, please feel free.
Well, hello everyone. You might remember me, like Joe said, from a few of the past Power Hours. I've been working for the TBC team for about 1.5 years. Right now, I've been remote, going back to school to get myself a little educated so I can be a stronger supporting member on the TBC team. So the first question that we're going to look at is from Khatib. I don't have the question pulled up in front of me exactly verbatim, but what Khatib was asking about is how to switch between using global and grid coordinates in TBC. So I've got a project here. This is kind of an interesting one. A little background on this is a project that I had to do for one of my university courses. And the reason I chose this one is because it has GNSS data, both global and grid coordinate points in it. So if you look at the hash lines here, the grid lines for the project, they're in grid coordinates in New Brunswick W stereographic projection. And if I was to select one of these points here and right click view the properties, I can see the grid, local, and global coordinates. And one of the tools that's very useful if you want to see what the global coordinates are at any location in your project. In the bottom right-hand side, there's this control scroll here, coordinate plane. I can just click on that, and it displays this little floating window that I can move around my project. Notice as I scroll around, it changes the coordinates to update to my current location with the cursor. And what is displayed there is both grid and global coordinates. If I right click on that, I can also add some other information, kind of a helpful little tool. So if I just wanted to see latitude and longitude, I could get rid of the grid coordinates, and now I can see the latitude and longitude of any point. So next part to answer the question, I'll just exit that, is how do I enter either a global or a grid coordinate? So you notice if I hit the points tab here on the left-hand side, we'll look at this FRDN point. I have an office entered global coordinate, which is in latitude and longitude coordinates. But what if I also wanted to enter, let's say, a grid coordinate? So what I can do is under the CAD tab here at the top, there's a create point command, very useful. And in that create point command, you have the option not just to do grid coordinates, but also local and global. In this case, let's try making a grid coordinate type. So I'll click in the easting box, and then I can snap onto a point if I wanted to, or I could just click random location. The elevation as well, I can type in a number, or I can select an area and add. And that creates a point, but notice if I select that point here on the left-hand side, it also has global and local coordinates, even though I only specified grid coordinates, and that is because we are currently working in a coordinate system that is tied to a horizontal and vertical datum. So that's one way, and I can do vice versa. I can also add a global coordinate instead to this point, so I could right-click on the point, for instance, and hit add coordinate, and that's a nifty little tool. And I could also add this global coordinate to that as well, if necessary. And one other little tip for you before we finish up this question. You can view all of the local, global, and grid coordinates of your points by going to the point spreadsheet, which is under the View tab here, and hitting Points. Boom, there you've got a list of all the points in your drawing with the latitude, longitude, and height. Let's say I wanted to add the grid coordinates here. I can go to the project settings, and we'll go to the left-hand side. There's a View tab, and under there, there's a point spreadsheet. And in that, we can change the settings for what's shown in the point spreadsheet. So if I scroll down, there's grid coordinates. So far they're set to hide, so we'll quickly change that to show. And now when we hit OK, now it shows easting, northing elevation, latitude, longitude, and height. So a lot of information for what you can use, and hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Riley. And if anybody has any questions or any follow-ups throughout this whole presentation, please go ahead and ask us, and we'll do our best to address them here while we still got the question open and active.
Perfect. All right, and I think we've got another question, Joe.
Yeah.
So while Joe's pulling that up, so this question I believe was asked by Mate, and it's in line with what kind of non-Trimble data can we import into TBC, such as importing total station data from Topcon and Leica or other manufacturers. And a secondary follow-up question is what formats are supported. So we'll jump here, just getting my screen to show. 1 second. There we go. So notice on the right-hand side, I've got a new project here. I've got the import command open up. Just to give you an idea, all the users out there, what kind of formats we can import into TBC. I know it's a question that's come up a lot in my time with the TBC group of, I have, let's say, a Trimble GNSS unit or Leica total station and a Topcon level. How do I get all that data into one project, right? Conventionally, most of the time, you would have 3 different software and you would try and merge it all together in the end. With TBC, we make it a little simpler. Now we can import various file types into TBC. So one of the questions in particular that we got for this Power Hour was a Leica GSI file, which is one of the formats supported. And you'll notice here on the side, I've got several GSI files. One is for a level file. This one here is for total station, and this one here is for Leica GSI coordinates. As well, there's a RW5 format, Leica XML, and the raw file format. There's several other files that are supported by TBC, such as the starnet.dat files. What else do we have? We've got quite a few other files, like listcad file formats, and a variety of others that you can find in the TBC help documentation. So looking at the Leica GSI file here, if I right-click on this file type, you'll notice that there's several different GSI importers. So it's really key to note that there isn't one Leica GSI file. And this is similar for some of the other formats out there, raw data formats. And in this case, we have several types like level, total station, and coordinates. So it's important that you know what data you're bringing into TBC, what inherent raw data it has in it. So quick example of this, we'll import this like a GSI total station data. And we'll hit import, and then we'll bring up all the total station data inside that. There we go. And voila. So we have a bunch of total station observations here. And like any data you would expect to get from a Trimble instrument, like from a job file or a JXL file, has the same raw data properties. So if we look at the right-hand side, for a total station observation, it's got the instrument height, as well as prism information and raw target height. Notice though that the prism constant isn't filled out. For this specific file format, and this is something to be aware of for anyone importing non-Trimble data into TBC, some raw data formats don't hold all of the information that a Trimble raw data file format can support. So it's important to know that when importing that data into TBC, and this is where good field notes come into play, of knowing what your prism constants were that you used in the field, and you can input that data here and it will update. So be aware of that when importing data into TBC, because that has the potential to be an issue for you if you're missing raw data that you thought you might get from an instrument. So we've got all that, and you can use the same functionality that you would with any other Trimble data, such as total station traverse adjustment, as well as I'll show a little network adjustment here just for example's sake. So I'll fix a minimally constrained adjustment here with 1 point, and we'll quickly look here on the GSI file. There's several stations, and I'm just going to open up the properties and turn on the corrections so the adjustment will run. And we'll go adjust. Oh, looks like I missed a setting. Bear with me, technical difficulties. Sea level correction. All right, now we have all of those, and adjust. And now we have an adjustment performed, and you see the error ellipses around the station point, so I could click on one of those. We'll look at station 8A and see the error, and I could go from there and do a network adjustment report or any other information. So important thing to take away from here is we have a lot of support for various different types of non-Trimble formats, such as like a GSI. And that data, be aware of what is held in that raw data format and what you should expect to be imported in TBC. But at the same time, now this gives you a benefit of importing not only Trimble data, but all those other types of raw data into one project, so you can carry out all of those processing needs in one software package. So excellent.
Thanks, Riley.
Problem. Any
questions? Continue what Riley was saying. If there's formats or updated formats potentially that you would like to see supported in TBC, please let us know. We want to be get along with everybody. We're not ignorant enough to think that everybody's using TBC or Trimble equipment. While we're biased, we think everybody should. We're aware that everybody does not, and we want to play nice with the Leicas and with the Topcons of the world. And so in that light, I want to throw up the first poll question. So in addition to Trimble, what other softwares are you using in your day-to-day survey workflow? See if I can launch it here, Michael. Oh, you got it. So the kind of the five that we've identified: Autodesk, Bentley, Carlson, Microsurvey, or Leica. Please give us a response. We'd really appreciate it. We're always looking to become interoperable, more interoperable with our software and hardware third-party packages.
Can they select more than one answer, Joe?
Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah, on this question, they can, yeah.
Okay. No questions, Riley. I think you didn't leave much to be asked. That was very good. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
That was very good. Thanks for holding on here.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Riley.
All right. Now that brings us to our first section of Two Truths and a Lie. The way this is going to work is one of us here, or Riley or Michael, will be reading a very short story or statement about TBC. Listen to all three, and then in the chat window, let us know what you think is the false statement. Please wait till all three of them are read. We had a little fun with it this morning. Hopefully you get a chuckle out of some of them here this afternoon. All right, first up, we're going to have Devin talk about Four Corners.
All righty, so the Four Corners is a pretty well-known household name here in the States. Outside of the States, it may not be quite as popular, but so the iconic Four Corners Monument in the USA marks the quadrupoint that joins Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. Using the new single proportioning tool in TBC, it was found that the existing monument is approximately 1,800 feet off, and that equates to about 550 meters. These findings have been nationally recognized, and subsequently, the existing site is set to be demolished and relocated in 2019.
Oh,
it's pretty heavy. Somebody screwed up.
I'll say. Took them long to realize it too. All right, Adam and Boris are going to talk about the languages.
All right, so we'll go ahead here. TBC speaks many languages. Externally, it can speak 16 languages in the settings. Development team members speak 10 different languages natively, but its mother tongue is .NET.
How many languages do you speak, Boris?
Well, enough for the fine speak.
It's not so good.
A few.
A few. That's a few more than me. All right, and we're going to have Riley go over the virtual surveyor story.
Awesome. Well, I'll jump back on the screen here. So some of you might not know this, but myself, as well as many of the individuals you can see there in Westminster, are surveyors by trade. And unfortunately, due to our working life, we don't get outside much anymore and are getting sensitive to the weather, especially when it's cold or really hot outside. So we've been trying to find a way to survey from the comfort of our office and somewhat double task. So there's a rumor that went around that when the SX10 was in testing, the TBC team used it to survey the Trimble office parking lot from the 4th floor of the building in Westminster using imagery and point clouds. So one TBC command, the virtual DR command, enabled those surveyors, us guys, to create an entire survey plan from the comfort of their office. Truth or lie?
That sounds nice. All right. So we've got those three stories, the Four Corners, the languages of the virtual surveyor. Please think about it and enter in what you think is the lie. We got Wayne coming in very quick saying the Four Corners point is a lie. Is that truth or lie, Evan?
Well, there's just a small piece of it is a lie, actually. So it is, in fact, that it is true that the monument is not correct. It is about 1,800 feet off. However, TBC was not used in that in those findings. And somebody probably lost their job on that.
Well, congratulations, Wayne Welchan. We'll reach out to you and get your address, and you are going to be the proud owner and wearer of our great TBC from field to finish confidence T-shirt. I do like that lie because it brings up a point that is worth mentioning, is that single proportioning command and greater cadastral workflows being worked into TBC. So with version 4.00, which we released in September, we made the kind of that first jump into back into the cadastral realm with adding the single proportioning and single proportioning report commands. That's part of a greater commitment. I think you'll see here in the upcoming releases a lot of cadastral commands, and this is particularly applicable to those on this call because this is mostly Americans and Canadians and Australians and New Zealanders on the call. So you'll see that our mantra of this is a survey software package for surveyors by surveyors is going to really hold true here, beginning with what we've already got out and then in upcoming releases as well. So thank you. That was pretty good, Devin. You came up with that?
Yeah.
You're a good liar, man.
All on myself.
So what size does Wayne need?
We'll reach out then. That's personal information.
Oh, okay. Didn't want to embarrass anyone. Oh, there it is. 3X.
We'll get you your size, Wayne. Congratulations. All right. Moving on to the next question. Can I resolve float and high RMS GNSS baseline processor results in TBC? This is the start of two questions that Terry here is going to demonstrate. And so we'll play a little quick game of chairs. I like Terry.
All right. Where's your TBC?
The middle port does not work.
Oh, really?
Of course, switch them out. Here we go.
And where's your TBC?
It should be opened.
Here. How do I move this out of the way?
You can just drag it down.
Bring me down. Okay, so I'm going to start a new instance, a new project in TBC, hopefully. Your button. And I've got a few files here I need to import. Let's see. There it is. These two. Now, one of these is a base file. The other one is a rover file. And you can see here, the base was ran for 5 hours, and I am going to send it to RTXPP to verify the position of the base. Joe, you're not registered with RTXPP? Register now. This is a shortcut. So you don't.
It's a legit copy, I swear.
So what this is doing is basically sending a file similar to the Opus service. It's sending it to a Trimble-like Opus service called RTX post-processing. So in return, we are getting a solution back from the processing server.
You could just drag that whole screen down, Terry.
That's all right.
All right.
In my years of experience with TBC, I've learned that having the properties pane next to the Project Explorer is a lot more useful than having it on the opposite side of the screen. There we go. So when I'm looking at something in the Project Explorer, the properties of it are right here, not on the other side of the screen, not that that's that far distance. So what we're going to do is as far as we import our files, and this data was collected in July, so I'm going to import the final GPS. the final GPS orbit and the GLONASS orbit. And just to make sure I have the most up-to-date data. And instead of having to click automatic, you can just double-click on this.
What's the difference between automatic and manual, Terry?
Manual will take you to the site, and I don't want to do that. We'll take you to the site, and you can manually find the files. Otherwise, it goes to the new server locations. You know, in TBC that's changed, and we had a patch to update them. So now I imported the files. Here they are, the IGS and the IGL. IGS being GPS and L is the GLONASS. You get the properties on that, you can see it. So in my project settings, I want to check and see what we've got here. How much time do I have?
As much time as you need.
Okay.
You have that thing in
It's really low.
Okay, so I'm going to baseline processing, looking at general. My ephemeris type is automatic, so that means it's going to use the best ephemeris that I have. And right now, as you see, I've got the precise, so I'll just leave it at automatic, but I just want to make sure what it's set to. And really, all the default settings are going to be good enough for what we are doing. We have GPS and GLONASS in this. So first, after importing all that, checking my settings, I'm going to go ahead and process the data and check the results. Now, this came from one of the, I guess, the TBC beta users. Submitted this question, so it's out of the country. So you can see all three of the vectors are floating in the high precision and horizontal vertical precision. So there's a problem, and somewhere, I'm not really quite sure where it is, but I was able to get these fixed, going through a number of processes to try to figure it out. So while I'm in here, let's look at just one of these points right now. And I'm going to select the point and then hit report. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. So we can see all this information of what information was used to process the data. It was float, so we didn't get any. We can see some breaks in the data on just one of the satellites. That really doesn't tell us much information, except that we do have a lot of satellites to look at. So let's minimize this. I'm going to just save that. And what I'm going to do, what point was that? Is that 105? I'm going to select that vector and look at the session editor. And you can see that because this is part of TPK data, and so here's the GPS and the GLONASS down here.
You got to the session editor by right-clicking with the baseline selected, correct?
Selected, correct.
Okay.
And this kind of reflects what we saw in the baseline processing report, that R20 has some missed data from one of the receivers. And if you look at this report, this is the session from point 105 to it's vector B1. Now, why isn't that other point showing? S80 is supposed to be up here. So what I want to do is to view the session extent. So you can see this, the blue receiver here is the one on top, the 105. The blue line represents data from the base receiver, and the green line represents data from the rover receiver. And we can see this was the first session, first occupation in this PPK session, and when they moved, they probably put it in their truck and didn't maintain lock between this site and the next site, which is not the best thing to do. Once you get locked, you want to keep it locked on and not lay your antenna down. So right now we really don't have much to go on except that that one satellite was a little off. So what I'm going to do, one of the things I'd like to try to do is to look at the elevation mask that I'm going to use for all these points. I'm going to go with 13 right now and just reprocess it. And this it may make it worse, it may make it better. We don't know. But if this site had a lot of trees on the horizon or mountains, then raising this 13 degrees elevation mask is going to block out some of that information. And we're still floating, so let's take a look at this one again. So still the same numbers, just about, and still nothing much to go on. Another thing you can try, if that doesn't work, I'm going to go back to settings and change this to 13. Now, if you change this to 13 and you say, okay, or if you change it to whatever, and then you import more data into your project and you keep it at 13, or you don't go back and change this, this is going to be held fixed for all of the future processing that you do as well. So if you want to go back to 10, you need to change it. I'm going to actually go to 8, and let's take a look at it.
So by lowering the number, you're basically limiting the view that the receiver was able, number of satellites the receiver was able to see?
Correct. They're not going to be used until they get above 13 and now above 8. So we're actually using a little bit more data. And that might have had a better effect on this 0.205. It's down to 76, but still floating. Another thing that I try when faced with these issues is going for multiple frequencies. Right now we have dual frequency. You saw that in the baseline processing report, the tracking summary at L1, L2, and if you didn't see that, I'll point out next time I open it. But I will process L1 only. Sometimes, since the L2 frequency is a lower frequency, the length of the signal is a little bit longer, and it's not going to penetrate the trees as well as L1 does. So I'm going to do L1 only and see what happens. So still, okay, so we're back up on 205. That using that mask earlier worked pretty good, but we're back up. So let's go back into a report and see where we're at.
First, I'm going down by 6,000.
So you can see here we have L1 only. If we look down here in the report, here's where I said you have L1, L2, and some receivers have L5. You can track L5, and that would be in the list. This is the only place in TBC you can see what frequencies you were tracking, by the way. Okay, so now we start to see, we get some residuals because we have we have a little bit better results maybe, and we're going to look and see what's happening within the results, within the tracking. Now we're looking for trends. Maybe during the middle of the session it was blown over, or maybe at the beginning or the end something happened, it got off level. And if you're looking at it, you can kind of quickly pick out something real quick, and I'm not sure what caused this. But we can do something about it and see if it helps our signal, our processing. So let's take a look at this one. This drop off is about the same in every file. So, and if we look at this is 238.48. So at 238 to we'll say 240, 238 to 240. I'm going to disable that part of the session, and that was for 105. I'm going to go to session editor. I'm going to look at the top. These numbers are going to move. and 238 right here. I'm going to click and drag it all the way down to this. Let's see if I get everything. Yes, I did. Now I need to fine tune that. So it was 238 to 240. So I'll go 0, delete, 0. And now when I apply this, the end of this will move back some. Where's my apply button? There we go. So, and I also need, okay, that's close enough to 238. So we'll okay that. But now we will reprocess again. So we can see that had no positive effect at all, but let's look at the report and see what's going on. This made it a lot worse. I need to go back to dual frequency. Let me do that. So we can see this gap in the data that I blocked out.
Yeah, so those jumps the spikes are gone.
Yeah, that spike in the center is gone. I'm wondering, did it get blown over in some way, and depending on how where the satellites were, if the tripod or if the rangefinder got moved in one direction, it's gonna lengthen it in one way and shorten it in another. But that's why you see some up, some down. Let me go back to the settings and go back to processing and say multiple frequencies. Process again.
Like an intense movie, like we keep waiting for the numbers to go down.
It's a cliffhanger.
Do you make it fixed or not?
Eventually. Okay, we got 2 fixed right here.
Yeah.
Still with flags, but they are fixed. Now this is the dual processor, dual frequencies. So that's good. We're going to save these 2. Well, actually, because they're in PPK, you can save them, but next time I process, it's going to reprocess these 2 anyway. What were you going to say?
Let's
speed it up.
Move it along.
Okay. So what I want to do here, one thing real quick, is check out and see if this point 105 did in fact move during the process during the occupation. So I'm going to go to the occupation of 105, and this button up here, it says force continuous. It's going to force it to be a continuous processing, and I will process the baselines again. So this is kind of a trial and error process. The processor is, sorry.
The baseline disappeared.
Yeah. The processor does such a good job on weeding out good and bad data. A lot of times you can manipulate these settings a bit, and you don't see much improvement in the results at all. So then you got to get creative. So what I did here is I processed 105 as a trajectory, and you can see here that something did happen. You can't tell if it's the beginning or the end of the file, but at this point right here, it must have got blown over somehow, somewhere. Or is that my blocking out of the data? Anyway, so this is a good way to view your data, to see if maybe they left the receiver on when they moved to this site, and it's got a lot of extra data that you don't really need. You can kind of use the scale of this to determine what size this is. But also remember this, in this view it's 2D, but there is a 3D component of that. And if I window into it, so we can see it, and then we can flip it on its side and see how this looks in the vertical. And we'll go here, and then we get a measure, just the top and the bottom, see what kind of distance this is. Measure. So we're looking at 2 decimeters in the vertical. Not too good. One other thing, running short on time, but one other thing I did do, and I did get good results, was now when you change this, you can't go back and unchange it. The only thing you can do is undo the changes. So you got to be careful of that or remove the file and reprocess it.
Not kidding. Field control.
There we go. There we go. Okay, so the last thing I'll show you is when I finally figured out what was going on. You can turn off all the GLONASS satellites and process it with GPS only, but in this case, by turning off all the GPS and processing it, processing the baselines with GLONASS only, I believe we were able to get fixed results on all the sessions, all the occupations. Fix. A little bit high, but at least we have we do get some fixed results where we had nothing before. And I turned GPS off. I still have this data gap here. There's something in here that caused it not to get fixed ambiguities until this part of the file. So I'm not quite sure what happened with this, but anyway, we did get fixed results. Maybe not ideal, but manipulating these settings, you can see how it can be better.
And this is actually a good data set to showcase not only the capabilities of TBC, but it also showcases that it's not a magic wand. You know, the methods and the approaches and what happened in the field, whether it was accidental or a mistake or an error, they can be tweaked and adjusted in TBC, but data collection and proper procedures still do matter. So I kind of like going through this data set and trying a couple of things here with this demo, Terry.
So once you saw me do what I did with 105, you can also do that with the base station. If you suspect the base station might have moved, what you can do is you can go to the base file and say, get the properties and have it do the same thing, and then download from a core station, from the closest core station. I think in this case, I couldn't get any other data, and this was 1,100 kilometers away, so that's quite far. But this was a 5-hour occupation on S80, so that was enough to process it. But I couldn't find an external source to process it.
So in that situation, Terry, when you identify the trajectory and we established that the receiver actually moved 20 centimeters, you would basically identify the time at which it starts moving from the trajectory timestamp, and then you would delete or you would limit in the baseline editor to just that time?
Yeah, what I would do, if it's not done anymore, but I would look at that, and I would have to go back to the settings over here. Let me turn everything on. I would have to go back to the general tab, I believe it is, and tell it to store the continuous as a trajectory, say no. And what that's going to do, what that's going to do, it's going to put a vector at every epoch that was recorded, and then you can review those vectors in the vector spreadsheet and find what time it was at that vector that the receiver moved, and then you know back in Session Editor which part of the occupation to block out. So you will only get this part of the occupation that did not move. So, and that's another step.
I think you covered a large part of that in your in the power hour on the baseline processing we did about, what was it, like half a year ago or something like that?
Probably so.
Yeah.
Probably so. Okay, Jerry.
Thanks,
Were there
Terry.
any questions?
My brain hurts.
Yeah, Terry rolled into, there was two questions there. Terry rolled into the next one as well with, during a long static session, I accidentally kicked the tripod on my face and the receiver moved slightly. The static file still imports into TBC, but I know the position needs to be adjusted. Is there a remedy in TBC? And that's what Terry kind of touched into at the end.
Oh, was this my question?
Yeah.
For somebody else? Oh, okay.
There was two. So
Okay,
you rolled right
good,
into it.
good,
So
good.
great. We're getting a little short on time, so please, if you have any questions, nothing has come in, but if you do have any questions on what Terry just showed, please submit it, and we'll get back to offline here. All right, so I will hand the mouse over to Boris, and he's going to show you a little bit on TBC storage.
So it felt not right to tell about the next steps or directions of where TBC is going without touching some of the places we've been, and how did we come to the story of field to finish with confidence, and why we've been able to develop as quickly as you saw us develop in the last 4 or 5 years. But I'm going to start by saying that TBC software story, or Trimble Office software story started in the 1980s, and we had a software called TrimVec, which then later became GP Survey, both of having a TrimNet as the adjustment module. We also then acquired a company in New Zealand, and that brought SDR Map, that later became TrimMap software, which that TrimMap didn't really straight become Trimble Survey Office, but that team worked on the first Windows-based Office software, and that was the Trimble Survey Office, which both of them got really converted into a Trimble Geomatics Office. And that was actually my first experience with Trimble software in the early 2000s. And I've kind of used TGO 1.5, and where we integrated GPS and total station in a single software environment. Then, because of that, all that history there, and we also got another team on board of Trimble software from TerraModel from Atlanta. And in order to prevent all of this, every few years we reinvent the wheel, and we keep introducing another software. And not just in Trimble Survey, but in other groups of Trimble, we kept reinventing the wheel. Like the create line command was probably programmed 55 times in 60 different software packages. So in early 2000s, we decided, let's really invest into a platform that's going to have longevity, that we'll be able to all contribute from various Trimble groups. And that platform name was actually Symphony, and it started about 2001, 2002. And the first application that was released on top of that platform was Trimble Business Center in 2005. So that's why you see such a strong contribution, both from the survey perspective, but also from that surface creation corridor drafting perspective that was introduced by the TerraModel team. So the TBC feature coding concepts came really from that. A lot of those TerraModel concepts were revived then.
So just a show of hands, who here was on the TBC team before the first release?
That's not fair.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. So we then started adding kind of GNSS L1, L2. In 2007, we introduced optical processing in TBC, adding corridor design in 2009. Then in 2012, you probably remember the painful transition from a bunch of icons in the software to the ribbon interface. And 3.0 was kind of introduction into the modern computation space, where the computation engines of the computers were not as big of a concern as 10 years before that. So the 64-bit processing, we introduced aerial photogrammetry, which actually comes from another software family in Trimble called Info, which started in early 1980s in Stuttgart. So we introduced that photogrammetry. So the US master software and TBC were leveraging the same engine to process data from the UAV devices here in TBC 3.0. We added terrestrial photogrammetry capabilities to take advantage of our Trimble Vision. And then in TBC 3.20, we added point cloud support from another software family in Trimble called Trimble RealWorks software. So the same engine runs behind Trimble RealWorks and TBC. That also allows us for a lot of cross-platform collaboration. So all the capabilities we build on top of TBC, we can leverage in RealWorks and vice versa. And also the Terra model kind of concepts came back strongly in place with the drafting module introduction. So concepts like Dynaviews and sheets and all of that stuff was introduced through the drafting module. We added data prep in 2014, GIS module in 2015 by contribution from some of our Pathfinder Office software team members, which I actually failed to highlight in these graphics. Then with the release of SX10, we expanded some of that Paris team contribution from Trimble RealWorks and scanning module, adding more analytics, more like automatic ground extraction, classification, registration tools to TBC. And then in 2017, as Joe said, we kind of reinvigorated that cadastral focus. We did things like create COGO commands. We computed the misclosures. We added a lot of proportioning and a lot of additional kind of software, survey software tools. We also started leveraging the web-based platforms a little bit more. So Trimble Clarity that we just released is a good example of some of our future directions using a cloud-based service as a collaboration mechanism to communicate more effectively with other trades in our ecosystem. So I hope this was kind of interesting from the perspective to how do we get to the point where we are today. And now when I kind of look at where we are going from this point, Joe, which one was the? And I just want to kind of have a disclaimer here. This is an action plan. This is not a commitment. Trimble is a publicly traded company, but wanted to give you a flavor of where we are thinking TBC should go. And we also look forward to get some of your feedback on this. But we really want to hammer on that message of ours that we are survey software primarily. We are not a design CAD. We are not an enterprise GIS. We are software for surveyors primarily, and be focusing on that field to finish workflows with confidence for surveyors. So in context of kind of bigger work chunks where we're heading, so in the data integration, we are really proud that we can say we have the ability to bring, as Riley said, level, total station, GNSS, point clouds, aerial photogrammetry, terrestrial photogrammetry, all of that data mashed into a single project. But we see opportunities for additional data types such as mobile mapping, GIS, and through the power hours, we got feedback that we could probably add a little bit more of hydro data in there. So that those are some of the immediate kind of things that we are looking at the moment. In terms of confidence and kind of that survey adjustment, survey core, we see a lot of ability to improve in the COGO and some of the traversing workflows. We can fine tune to make those a little bit better. It's interesting that we are perceived as a GPS package, but TBC I would argue is stronger in optical than it is in GPS. So I'll let for you to judge that. We have spent a lot of time in the last 2-3 years on the deliverables because there's no point in being awesome if nobody knows about it. So you guys have to sell something to your clients. There has to be something you can produce at the end of the day. So we are really looking to improve that process and shorten that time to deliverables by streamlining some of the drafting workflows. We see a lot of opportunities to automate our feature extraction from point clouds and imaging data. and we see opportunities for additional workflows that we have been asking through power hours and other interaction around tunneling, inspection workflows, pipelines, and so on. So we'll be very active in that space. As Joe said, we want to play along with everybody. We understand kind of surveying is just very often an event that happens in a larger construction project. So we want to make sure that TBC primarily works well with Autodesk and Bentley, but also on the GIS side with Esri. And also within our own Trimble ecosystem, we want to streamline some of that field to office interaction and improve those Trimble Access services and the way how that workflow operates today. On the software platform, as I said, we are committed to TBC. We don't have any plans to reintroduce another software package in the next 3 to 5 years, so you can kind of sleep tight. If your concern is whether we're going to kind of switch direction on you, I can say with some level of confidence that we don't have any intent on doing that. So we keep investing into the platform, keep making sure the platform is scalable, and we can continue building upon it. So we want to make sure licensing has additional flexibility in the era of various SaaS models and usage-based models. We want to make sure that you get the most out of your investment. We are also looking to introduce the macro language. A lot of you that come from the Terra model background have used TMLs in the past. We are looking at kind of bringing something similar back, giving you more control over TBC. And if there's not a command in TBC doing exactly what you want it to do, you would be able to kind of create your own workflow. And a little bit farther out is ability to have an SDK or an API that will allow you to really kind of write your own software on top of TBC. And that's something that we have on our radar, and would love to kind of hear from you what your perspectives are on that. So I hope this was a good kind of a perspective of how did we get to where we are and where we want to go next. And I hope you kind of generally agree with these. If you don't, I would love to hear it, actually, more so than if you do.
Yeah.
So let us know where we are doing wrong or what we could be doing better. And Joe has prepared a small poll here asking you for some of that feedback. So where would you like TBC to focus our development in the next couple of years? Data QA/QC, some of the interoperability, more survey adjustment, more point cloud and imaging related workflows, more drafting and plotting CAD.
Yeah, so let us know. We'll leave this open here for another 30 seconds or so.
Just a note that this morning we run the session a little bit different. We did some of the different questions. So there was a lot of more focus on point clouds and drafting in the morning session. So there might be value if you kind of catch up with some of the recordings later and you watch the morning session as well, if that's the part of TBC that you're interested in.
Yeah, and these recordings will be available. We are going to run here a little bit late as well, like we did this morning. This recording will be available and posted for you to review. So we appreciate your time here sticking with us, or if you've got other previous commitments, we completely understand that as well. So yeah, this was great. Some of that history, Terry is out of the room now, so we can talk bad about him or good about him or whatever. But he, some of this history is fantastic. Really seeing where we've come from, and Boris framed it really well with how aggressively we've been growing is because of that history and the capabilities and that decisions made in the early 2000s to switch to a central platform where TBC is now able to pull in other resources from development groups that are on the same Symphony-based platform. Really kind of exponentially has accelerated our growth here and capabilities in TBC the last couple of years. So thank you, Boris, that was great.
Thanks.
All right, we've got another 2 truths and a lie. I'm going to need to recruit somebody to read for Michael. Our Marcom guy, Michael Dix, had to step out. He was my partner in here on this story. called the Causeway, and I actually don't have my script here, so I'm not going to get my acting gig.
Here we go.
Here, Devin, you want to read with me here?
Yeah.
You want to take Michael's spot? All right, so remember, 3 stories here. One of them is going to be a lie. Listen to all 3. First that responds in the chat window with the correct answer will get a fantastic TBC t-shirt. All right. This is loosely based on my previous work employment, loosely. All right. Hey, we've been dumping riprap into that river for that access causeway to Pier 6 for 2 weeks now, yelped the project superintendent to his overworked and underappreciated survey manager. Maybe it sounds familiar to some. You sure that initial quantity you gave me is correct? If there's anything I hate more, it's moving rock unnecessarily from point A to point B.
The crew's almost done. Just doing some final grading and stabilization for vehicle access. Have you been out on the site? My quality is right. 5% under, actually. Respectfully, responded the survey manager.
Prove it, snorted the super.
No problem. I've got the design, as-built data, and quantities right here, all generated by TBC advanced software, said the surveyor as he handed him an A3. Look, here you go.
Wow, this plan sheet looks great. You got the proposed geometry, the as-built shots from that Cyclops-looking total station thingy out there, and the as-built line work, along with a neatly organized table comparing proposed and actual quantities on one piece of paper. The superintendent was in disbelief. And are those cross-sections of the ramp and finished grade too?
Yep, I completed the design, added the survey data, and reported on the as-built conditions, all within TBC. Field to finish with confidence in one software, sir, concluded the surveyor.
All right.
You guys looking for another acting job?
Yeah. I am accepting applications. Story number 2, Boris.
Okay, so this is a story about how TBC got its name. There's a lot of jokes about TBC name and what it stands for, so I prefer the best choice. Some say it's to be continued, but again, this is the story as how it's told by Richard Hassler, one of our longtime team members and person who had a great deal of influence in creating TBC. So, well, I started asking for a name for the product some 2 years before we actually needed it. I kept telling people that it will become more and more important as folder names and documentation started to get close. We had a program folder called Trimble Office for a long time, and several of us wanted to call it that name. And remember that Trimble Survey Office was the product before TGO? There were also some concerns that Microsoft would come down on us for stealing the Office name. Of course, they didn't register that name, they registered Microsoft Office instead. Anyway, no one did a darn thing about the name for all that time, and when we were pretty much 2 weeks from the drop dead date, where no name meant holding on up the project, a few people, not me, got together and said, okay, how about Trimble Business Center, because we want our products to be at the center of everybody's business. Everybody was so happy to have a name that they just said, okay. This is how I remember it happening.
That is inspiring.
Yeah, we do things very scientifically here in Trimble.
All right, story number 3, to be read by Michael. Devin, you want to step in here?
Yeah. So this story is about the big move to Mars and the Mars Space Station project. So with the aid of TBC's aerial photogrammetry package, as many of you know as UAS Master, surface creation features and CAD drafting tools inside TBC, the viability of agriculture in space is being researched.
With TBC?
With TBC.
Oh, all right.
So.
Cool. Where do we get the images
People
from?
want to live there?
We get the images from the satellite?
Yeah, those space station flybys.
Or the terrestrial from the rover.
All right. So which of these 3 stories, the Causeway, the TBC name, or the Mars project, was the lie? All right. Mark McFarland comes in with number 3, the Mars project. That is correct. Unfortunately, NASA or any other international space organization has not contacted us yet. We would love to be a part of any Mars expedition. That would be pretty easy to market. That would make our lives pretty easy.
Well, Matt Damon figured out how to grow potatoes without TBC. So.
Oh, that's based on.
Yeah.
So actually, one of our developers that developed TBC terrestrial photogrammetry, his previous employment before that was working for Ohio State and doing the processing of Mars rovers images.
Oh, really?
So
hey, close. It could be true.
It's not likely that there's some code in TBC that was leveraged in the Mars rover project. So.
All right. Well, thank you. Congratulations. I hope. Congratulations, Mark. I hope you guys enjoyed that little ditty as much as we did creating them. All right. We still have 2 more questions to get to. This question is a follow-up to our Power Hour sessions from last month. We're going to bring Adam in here to answer the question of, do you recommend completing a site calibration in Trimble Access, the field software, or TBC, the office software? And are there any differences between the 2? Take it away.
While Adam is getting settled, Bob was asking the situation with the TCC, or is Connect going to be taking its place? We'll be touching that a bit in our next question, Bob, so hold tight.
All right. Thanks, John Board. So as far as recommending to complete your site calibration in Trimble Access or TBC, they're essentially the same function between the 2 softwares. I do think there is an advantage in doing it in TBC. However, you have a few more kind of QA, QC tools and reports that are available. That's not to say there's anything wrong with doing it in Trimble Access. I mean, sometimes this comes down to the fact that you have to do it in the field. The good thing is, though, is you can bring in that calibration that you did in Trimble Access in the field, and you can look at it in Trimble Business Center. You can edit it. You can make sure everything's good. So we'll go through a quick demonstration of the Trimble Access workflow. Well, spoilers there for the next question. So we'll open up our Trimble Access, and I already have the job set up. As Joe said, this is from a Power Hour last month. So if you're not too familiar with site calibration, then definitely check that out. This is the same data set. We have a base at 400. We have some GNSS observations. Specifically, the ones we're worried about is 108 is paired with a known grid point, number 8, as well as observation 101 paired with 1, and we have 102 paired with 2. So we'll go into our site calibration, which is under measure, RTK, site cal, and we'll start quickly adding these pairs. Like I said, our grid point will have 1, which is related to GNSS point 101, and we'll use that for horizontal and vertical. We do have these options here to use it for just vertical only, just horizontal only, horizontal and vertical, or turn it off. So we'll leave it horizontal and vertical. We'll add our other pairs, go into the same process. And we can see here that it automatically calculates as we go. We have our residuals. We're looking at 3 millimeters on the horizontal and 3 millimeters on the vertical at the worst. We do have some options here in Trimble Access that you'll see in TBC also. We have the ability to fix our horizontal scale to 1, so we won't be scaling the distances. And we have it for a vertical adjustment. You can do a constant adjustment or on an inclined plane. Do it as a constant for now. We have these other options down here that are unique to Trimble Access, and they have to do with setting up your auto calibration. If you just want to go and say you go measure a whole bunch of points, and you already have the grid points associated in the job, then these settings will kind of control that and which ones it'll flag as being out of tolerance. And same thing here, just adding suffixes or prefixes to those points. So We'll go ahead and look at the results of calibration. We did a 3-point calibration, which is actually kind of on the low end for 3D. You usually want 4, but that's just what we have in this job. Then we have all the parameters, the scale factor, we held that to 1. We have a rotation, our max horizontal residual, vertical residual, and the constant adjustment. So we'll apply that, and we'll open up that job within the emulator, and it'll actually just copy it so we can have it open in TBC at the same time. Up our TBC file, start a new one. And we'll drag in that copy. And if we open up our site calibration, we can see we have the same settings that we did in Trimble Access for the most part. We can still set our scale to 1. We can do the inclined plane or just the shift only. One thing you'll note that is different here is this update project definition. This is something you might want to use if you're dealing with some grid coordinates. If your GNSS measured points are in like a state plane projection or one in the UTM zone, you'll have coordinates in the millions. And if you're changing it to a system where your coordinates are in the thousands, then you're going to want to update your project definition to something in that location close to that new coordinate system.
Because of that distortion moving from somewhere way far out to something local.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be in that area, and that's going to bring your scale factor into a normalized sort of thing.
Okay.
For this project, it's not something we need to worry about. And we can go ahead and look at our point list, exactly the same as the one we did in Trimble Access. We got our points pairs. We can use them for horizontal, vertical, and the same options, same as they were. We'll go ahead and compute this. And we'll say it's going to delete our old calibration. That's fine. It should be the exact same, which we compute it, and we can actually see the results. We can confirm that they are exactly the same between the two softwares. So this is what I was talking about, where you have those kind of extra QA, QC tools. You have these graphs that give you the residuals for each point. They give you a direction. You can see, maybe if they're all facing the same way, then you might have some sort of systematic error you might have to deal with. And they also have a report. Click on that button, they'll bring up a site calibration report that has kind of all the information you might ever need: coordinate systems, local site settings, all your translations, residuals, and calculated points. So yeah, to summarize the original question, they're both fundamentally the same. You can always transfer between. I can take this calibration and transfer back to Trimble Access. But TBC does probably give you a few extra tools. It might be a bit easier to do it in the office. And yeah, that's all I have.
Sweet. Thanks, Adam. All right, Adam mentioned that this was a follow-up. This is a power hour that he did last month. I'll go through at the end and show where those power hours are. They're available for you to view and watch at your leisure. And with that, we'll move on to Devin, who's going to talk about Trimble Connect and our entry into the cloud space.
All righty, how's it going, everybody? So I know that we're getting close to a good ways over time now, so I will try to be short and sweet, but inform you guys on how we utilize external services with Trimble Connect. So the verbatim question here is, I see that TBC's external services, Trimble Connect is listed. How does TBC integrate with Trimble Connect?
So what is Trimble Connect?
So Trimble, well, we'll get into that, Joe. I'm glad you asked. So Trimble Connect is our web-based collaboration platform where there is many apps built inside of it.
where we can manipulate and collaborate on 3D models. We're able to house files, agnostic files, up in the cloud. And yes, the answer to this is yes, we can have a two-way street here from Trimble Connect to TBC directly. And
How do I jump out of this?
can hit escape.
I'm going to jump into...
And while Devin's loading up the project, to answer Bob's question about is TCC going to be around for a while, that's a while is a relative term. We're transitioning away from TCC into Trimble Connect, and so for a while, potentially, but we're really encouraging, and you'll see in Trimble Access now, when you go to log in to an online service, before you'd have the TCC option by kind of default, now you have TCC and Trimble Connect. So it's going to be the replacement platform for TCC. Trimble's moving away from that and into Trimble Connect.
Alrighty, so we will start with going to our options tab here in our external services. So the way that we set up our login here is by going into our external services and setting up what we're calling a profile. And after you create this profile, you only have to do it one time, and it'll follow you through all of your TBC projects. So we'll go here and go to create. The services we've got selected as Trimble Connect. However, please do note that we've got a handful of different external services that we do support. I saw in the poll a little bit earlier that Joe deployed that we've got quite a few Bentley users. And if you guys are familiar with ProjectWise, that is their web collaboration platform, and we do interface with that as well. So everything that I'm about to show you is directly applicable to Bentley ProjectWise as well. Just real quick, I could just show you here real quick what that looks like. So here it's just going to ask you for a handful of credentials, and this is something that you would get from your ProjectWise admin. So we're actually just wanted to braze over that real quick. We're going to do a connect. I'm going to call this Devin's Connect, and I'm going to set it as the default. Again, we're just creating this profile. It's going to ask me for my email and password.
And the email and password is tied to your TID, so this would be set up already in advance. There are links here to be able to create a TID, which is a free service.
Not everybody knows what TID, Trimble ID essentially. So we try to standardize. So the idea is to have a single Trimble login for everything.
Finally.
Yeah. So you don't have to memorize 10 different passwords and such. So if you go to Trimble Connect online, if you just Google Trimble Connect, you can sign up for free, and basically we just need your email and password to connect to your Connect account.
Yep. So yeah, I just punched in my credentials, and I'll press sign in here, and it is actually verifying and checking into Trimble Connect, and now I am effectively synced with Trimble Connect. Here you can see up here at the top that I am signed in. So we'll go ahead and exit here. From the Home tab, we've got this Open Remote File. And what this is going to do, this is just saying, hey, let's pull from these web services. And there's actually a hotkey right here that can take you right back to that to your options if you need to create a profile. You need to create a new one. We do not, since we just made one. Here's your drop down. Let's see, I am signed in. Correct. Boy, that's weird. Where'd your profile go? I don't know. Looks like my profile disappeared on me. So let's do it again. That's weird. Well, this is just a name. Put that again as default.
We all know your email address.
You guys ping me anytime, night or day.
Devin's also the complaint department for TBC.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let me, again, sign in. Devin Connect, default, signed in. Let's just go set as active as well. Press OK. And there she is. Perfect. All righty. So once I click on this, immediately here's my link. I'm accessing quite literally what's inside of my Trimble Connect.
Where did you get that to that command, Devin, again? Can you close it, open it again?
Yep, sure. So again, this was up here in the Home tab, open remote file, and again, all of your profiles should be stored in here. Here we are, Devin Connect, and again, we're looking at my my project structure inside of Trimble Connect. So we're going to open up a project that we were provided from a Croatian civil engineering company. And this is actually a DWG here. Just quick little tips and tricks. This guy, if you double click it, it brings you back up. That little ellipses, it brings you back up in your project tree. So again, we want to go grab that project. If I can just double click it, it is opening, and it's pulling it from Trimble Connect right now. And there we are. Again, this file lives inside Trimble Connect, and we just pulled it down. So while we're here, I mean, the bulk of what we really wanted to take away here is that, yes, this is a two-way street. We can directly interface with web services such as ProjectWise, Trimble Connect, but let's just quickly touch on some of these really cool some of our CAD functionality here, where we're able to automate and create points. Because you know how this would work is you probably have a drawing on Trimble Connect. You might want to pull that down, create some points, and then sync it right back up to Connect for your surveyors to pull down in the field and begin their layout. So
does Trimble Connect sync with Trimble Access?
It does. It does. So via Access Sync, it syncs directly with Trimble Connect, and your field personnel is able to pull your points or anything that you have synced up there, if that's a DXF, a DWG, CSV. So what we're going to do is we're going to strive to create some points for the center line. Let's go to View, and I want to pull up my View Filter Manager here. There's some really cool, they're not the most obvious icons, but some really cool icons up here, and I would encourage you to give these a play. But you guys can see how busy this drawing is. Well, I can isolate this center line by simply selecting that center line and selecting this icon right here, View Only Layers of the selected object. Boom. And it just hid everything else by a single click. So no need to go through your View Filter Manager, turning things off one by one by one. All right, and again, as I had alluded to a little earlier, and actually Riley had talked about this, was this creating point. Well, if you do this little drop down, this highlights all of the snaps or create point functionality that we actually have in TBC, and there's quite a few here. I mean, to really you're able to create points. I mean, really any way that you would really ever need to. So, hey, for instance, let's do maybe an intersection of lines. Okay, so it's asking me, there's line 1 and identify line 1 and line 2. So maybe we want to do the intersection of these two center lines. And this would be this line. And feature code, let's just do center line road and add. And let me make sure that the layer is turned on.
So that little yellow icon notification is in layers. It's telling Devin that the points layer is turned off.
Which is weird because, oh, let's see. There we go, points, and there she is. All right, If we wanted to create points, oftentimes you guys are laying out center line of road, you're going to want to do offsets that are actually outside of the road. So, you know, your heavy civil guys, dirt workers can come in and start grading it out. So let's do an interval, create intervals, or points at an interval along this line. So this is an automated process here where we just define the interval. Let's just say it's 10. I think we're working in meters here. Feature code, we'll just call it, we'll do an offset of 10. So we'll do 10 foot offset, center line of road. And here's my horizontal. We said we're going to do 10. Do this on this side of the road.
It's 10. What's the difference between 10 and minus 10?
So that's just direction. It's all based on the direction of the line. So 10, if I did 10, happens to be that I worked on this file a little bit earlier, so I know if I did 10, it's going to go to the right side of the screen. Negative 10 is going to go to the exterior, go to the left side. So we'll just go ahead and apply. It was on layer 0, so I just need to turn that on. And there they are. All right. So again, as we were talking about this, I can just select this guy, view only layers of selected objects, and I'll get rid of everything else because I want to kick these out to Trimble Connect. Okay. So you can see I have a point selected here. I can go right click and select similar. That'll select all of my points for me. That's selecting a similar layer. And now let's go to the export in the home tab. Oh, I'm expecting, yeah. Terry messed me up earlier.
That was an interesting.
Jacked me up.
I like having them separate, but it's each their own.
It's funny, this big screen, and I'm like staring over here, like, where is that? All right, so here, this is a point file that we want to export. So I'm going to go to custom. These will be in point northing easting elevation. It says I've got 873 points selected. Let's just call this centerline road. Centerline road, CSV. And you see this little icon right here. This says browse external service locations. And this allows me to, it takes me back to this familiar screen here where we define where we want to go, exterior of TBC. So we're going to write to Devon's Trimble Connect. We're in that same path in that TBC PH folder, file name Centerline Road, and I'm going to just save it and make sure you press export. Now this is kicking out that CSV up to Trimble Connect, and just to verify, we will. I've got my Trimble Connect pulled up somewhere here. Take a look here at my Trimble Connect. Yeah, crossing my fingers. And as expected, there's our centerline road CSV. So that's our communication back and forth. So simply to summarize, essentially what we're able to do now is Trimble Connect is, let's think of this as the hub, right? This is the brain, the nerve center, and everything you put in here can go out to Trimble or TBC, and then we can go back from TBC back to the nerve center, Trimble Connect, and then go out to the field. So this is kind of our, like, that's where the name came from, Trimble Connect. I don't think we have the story, quite the backstory for that, but you know, this is connecting quite literally the field to the office.
Yeah, I would use the Google Drive analogy, right? Where Trimble Connect is our hub, as Devon explained, where it's not essentially a product that we would necessarily sell from geospatial perspective, but we are leveraging the backbone of that Connect platform to exchange data with other trades or with our field personnel.
And yeah, and again, just to remind you, so Trimble Access does in fact connect just similar to the way we just set up a profile and we connected to Trimble Connect via TBC. You're able to do that same thing in the field with Trimble Access.
Yeah. Great demo, Ben. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
this a power of 2 hours?
Yes.
This is a power 100 minutes. Let me see if I can get us home in 4 minutes. I'm gonna unfortunately go quickly through the next couple of slides, but these are very, very important. If you've stuck with us this long, thank you. If you're viewing this on a recording, thank you for jumping to this point. Get your pause button ready to pause and take down some of these URLs or screenshots that I'm going to show here for our resources, what we offer you, and what I spend a lot of my time, and Boris spends a lot of his time, and all these guys spend a lot of their time on, is promoting our message, getting our product out there. We've got a new TBC webpage, easily navigable to trimble.com/TBC, much more graphical, a lot more video and media, testimonials, resources there from the old website. One of those new resources is we've taken the tutorials out of TBC and now we've put them online for free distribution. The benefit of these tutorials is not only are we packaging a sample data set with each of these tutorials, but we're also packaging a PDF with a series of instructions step by step for each of these workflows. I think there's 27 of them up there now that will really take you through the basics of the software and these workflows. We're also very proud of our TBC survey YouTube channel. Look around release time, especially, we'll add short videos to the TBC survey channel to introduce what's new, both on a feature basis, or I have my marathon presentation here, the last 2 releases, on everything that's new in a kind of a PowerPoint presentation. So if you're interested in what's new with a release or some additional features that we've added over the last couple of years, there will be a short YouTube video on it. Power Hours, what Adam was talking about, he did a great job on November, a couple weeks ago, on the SiteCal and local site settings Power Hour in TBC. That's viewable here. The same link that you use to register, if you scroll down, there's an archive section, a recorded section. The last couple of 3 sessions, we've added the PDF presentation and the sample data as well to be able to download, so you can follow along with the presenter. If you haven't taken a look, these have been going on since 2015, so we've got 2.5 years of content up there. And the first question here that came in, Terry Thomas, sorry you've taken off, but he asked, are you going to have a power hour for site calibrations using Opus positions or corrections, moving RTK data to those Opus positions? We've done a power hour on that. It was middle of last year, Boris, you said 2016. So take a look at that. These sessions, we break down the workflow 30, 35, 40, 45 minutes going through the workflows in TBC. We've got a blog-esque page, a Trimble Community TBC page, a free service that is monitored here. Adam Tigris is always pulling comments or questions or enhancements from this page, as well as the marketing team. So the way to reach us as well, that's absolutely free. You can connect with other users as well. It's great to see that one end user, one customer responded to another customer's question. TBC is really kind of catching on, and people are using our software. One of the features on that community is the release of a tip of the week. We've kind of gotten away from that, and it's something that I want to get back into, but there's 21 up there right now. If you watch the recording from this morning, Arnaud Lesenek goes through an ortho-rectified creation process. That's tip of the week number 12. So the documents that stand on their own with screenshots, explaining some workflows, kind of quick little tidbits, and our favorite tips and tricks in TBC. That's available at this URL. It's also available in a link on the community homepage. Facebook page, getting a little bit into social media. Riley was great, much better at social media than I am, and I think I can speak for Boris as well. Although Boris has added some great content here lately with documenting his travels and how international TBC is. There's Boris. Was that in South Africa or was that in Mozambique?
That was with the National Mapping Authority in Mozambique.
So trying to connect as many ways with you and our customers and our distribution partners as we can. There's Michael here next to me, and that was our machine control power hour. Riley was obviously very highly engaged in the content. The beard was a little shorter back then too. And then formal requests for learning and certified training. We've linked these to our TBC homepage now, but through either learn.trimble.com or the link on our homepage, be able to request certified training, or if you're interested in becoming a certified trainer to train TBC, I would encourage you to check this out as well. So next steps. If you're new to TBC, welcome. We're happy to have you. If you want to download the latest version of TBC, we'd recommend it. We've added a lot of new features. If you haven't checked back with us in a while, that download is available on our homepage. You can download the product for free and then get a free 30-day demo license from your local Trimble distribution partner. If you don't know who that is, we are all over the world, as you can see here by these flags. So check that site out, request a demo, interact with us on social or on our community page. Get the learning and the training you need through some of our video sessions, or reach out to us directly. Then I'm happy to pronounce, this is the last slide, and I'm happy to announce and tease the next Power Hour at the end of January, January 31st, working with point clouds in TBC. Stephen Witt, a representative for geospatial support in EMEA, he is based in Germany, has volunteered to host this with me. Since he is in Germany, we will only do one session. That is the 8 a.m. U.S. Mountain Time session. So the session currently that you're watching now, if you're still with us, we'll only have the earlier session as well for this. So this is working with point clouds in TBC from a variety of different sources, both Trimble branded and third party, both UAV and terrestrial, and how those all work into a single project in TBC. Some of the tips and tricks and new functionality that we've added here since version 380 when the scanning module came online. So with that, a much big thank you to everyone here. Thank you to Terry. Thank you to Riley. Great job, everybody. Hopefully everybody learned something, found this entertaining. We hit 105 minutes. There you go, 105 minutes. You have 45 bonus minutes this session. We had fun doing it. This session went really well. The session this morning went really well. And any parting shots or parting?
Just a big thanks to Joe for the effort of putting all of this together. And Joe has been an amazing asset to the team over the last 6 months. And I have to say I was nervous transitioning from the TBC product management into, and I can say I sleep really well at night knowing that TBC is having Joe at the helm. And it's also great to know that the team is so committed that we are not relying on one person. It's really kind of a group effort, and I think we are optimistic about our future.
Yeah, those are very kind words. Thank you. Team effort. And so we're happy to put this together for you. And
I just real quick, just wanted to echo. I know that we ran way long and we didn't field many questions, but all of your questions have been documented, and we'll make sure that we get back and address every single one of those.
Yeah, and thank you all for participating. Those user questions were great. We'll be sending those T-shirts out. Happy holidays. Have a safe and Merry New Year. And we'll see you at the end of January.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks to our special guest, William.